As we're recording this video, Europe is bracing for its second major lockdown. Most of the other countries around the globe never fully opened their borders, and US is breaking records of what we call today COVID-19 cases.
We're following the breaking pandemic news. The United States just topped 9 million confirmed coronavirus cases.
Die Zahl der Corona-Neuinfektionen in Deutschland bleibt auf hohem Niveau. Die jüngsten Werte liegen zwar unter den Spitzenwerten der vergangenen Woche.
Ils ont 2 jours pour se former à la réanimation.
It's crisis of global proportions, and one that might seem it's going to last forever. So the real question is, will this pandemic ever end? And if yes, how? In this episode, we will consult cutting-edge science that is currently developed. We need to look at the dark past of humanity and draw some conclusions, and we also need to understand how the fabric of our society is made and why this pandemic will forever change not only our health, but our education, finance and technology. My name is Vladislav Radak. I'm a writer and mathematician, and I make videos on the questions that might never be asked before. Let me take you on an adventure.
Hello, Instagram.
Bad boy. Run wild. I'm on a mission and I won't stop. No destination, but it's worth a shot. You gotta let me go. You gotta let me go. You gotta let me go.
1 year ago we hugged and kissed, we shook hands. 1 year ago nobody knew SARS-CoV-19 existed. Now the virus has spread to almost every country, totaling 50 million cases with almost 1.5 million deaths. It crashed economies and broke healthcare systems, filled hospitals and emptied public spaces. It cancelled weddings, burned through retirement homes and changed the way we watch sports, date and love. And now it seems like the world before is like a distant dream. We watch movies from the last year shocked that no one is wearing masks and that no one is keeping the distance. We know that there is no going back, but the question we often ask ourselves is how this pandemic going to end, and will it ever? A global pandemic of this proportion was inevitable. Just ask literally every scientist who worked tirelessly on similar problems for the last couple of decades, or watch Bill Gates' TED Talk recorded 5 years before an individual in Wuhan will report his first breathing problems. We knew that this was coming and we did nothing. Why? To understand this phenomena better, we need to investigate many pandemics before. Not only the Spanish flu, disease and illness have plagued humanity since the earliest days. However, it was not until a marked shift to agrarian communities that the scale and spread of these diseases increased dramatically. But only with recent scientific tracking we are able to understand the genesis and the end of every disease. The type and properties of every virus determines how we as humanity are going to define it, fight it and hopefully end it. And the most important property of every virus is of course the death rate. Some strains of viruses have a low death rate amongst general population, and we don't necessarily fight against it. We'll try to slow it down and predict its seasonality, just like common flu. We have vaccines against it, but eradication is almost impossible. This is why vaccine only slows it down and protects healthcare system from reaching its full capacity. For others, like SARS, we know that the death rate is really high, around 11% according to the recent findings, but the symptoms started early, and with fast contact tracing, doctors were able to contain the virus and stop the global pandemic. No cases of SARS-CoV have been reported worldwide since 2004, but the virus can live in animals and it's only a matter of time when will it reappear. So you already see 3 likely scenarios. One is to contain the virus and don't let it spread further, so the virus dies out and everybody's happy and we're having hugging parties. Yeah, this is not happening and it's way too late for that. Also, with some people not even having symptoms means that this will never work even if somehow we magically stop people around the globe from having contacts for at least 2 weeks. If one person around the world has a virus for at least 1 week, that means that contagion will never work. Take, for example, the Black Death, the deadliest pandemic of human history that wiped out hundreds of millions of people over a period of 2000 years. When it was understood by science how it was transited with strict quarantine and improved sanitation, it was contained, but not fully eradicated. Yet cases of the plague still occur. For example, in Inner Mongolia in July this year, we reported 584 deaths from 2010 to 2015. Technically, you can still catch it and die from it. The second way how pandemic could end is to slowly die out. The H1N1 virus that caused the Spanish flu pandemic killed 50 to 100 million people worldwide. After 2 waves between 1918 and 1920, that particular H1N1 strain of the flu faded away to become a more benign version that still circulates every year. Much like new coronavirus today, isolation and quarantine helped slow down the transition. In that case, we accepted mutated and less dangerous virus and we learned how to live with it. So the most probable way how this pandemic will end is through combination of vaccine and acceptance, social acceptance that we might live with this virus forever. With the first outbreak recorded in 1520, our ancestors faced the specter of smallpox. This disease, caused by the virus variola minor, is one of the deadliest known to humans. Spreading from an infected person's nose or mouth, it caused fluid-filled pustules to develop all over body. In its height, about 3 out of every 10 people with this disease died. Like plague, smallpox killed hundreds of millions of people, 300 million in the 20th century alone. But thanks to the vaccine developed in 1796 by the British doctor Edward Jenner and the efforts of scientific community, the disease has been completely erased, although it took nearly 2 centuries to do so. To this day, smallpox, thanks to science, doesn't even exist. And now, if you know me, you know that I will try to mingle somehow classical literature or some great quote that can explain the challenges or the problems and shine a light on the position that currently humanity is. And there are thousands of great books written on topics of pandemics or challenging humanity and a lot of great quotes, but one unlikely hero from the fantasy classic Lord of the Rings really speaks to us. "I wish it need not have happened in my time," said Frodo. "So do I," said Gandalf, "and so do all who live to see such times. But it is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us." While first COVID-19 vaccines show promising 90% success rate in testing, expected to gain approval as soon as the end 2020 or early 2021, we need to understand this pandemic from social and moral perspective. This is the first time that pandemic can push us to catalyze social change. This is the moment in history where young people, people in power and people with strong immune systems need to be equally, if not even more responsible than people in danger. We need to understand the importance and the role of our medical staff, scientists, teachers, and essential workers. We need to slow down our invasion on nature and the earth. We need to teach humility, compassion, and we need to understand that putting us first can lead to catastrophic consequences for us all. We need to understand the benefits and traps of technology and how to yield its power to lead to social change that will prevent next deadlier pandemic. This will end. No matter how implausible it sounds, we will have theater again, carnivals and massive germ-infested music festivals. We will hug and kiss again. And we will stop wearing masks. I know it sounds like a distant dream, but look, we waited for a decade for Keanu Reeves to come up with the next good movie, and now look at him, he's all over the place. He's even making Matrix 4, a movie that nobody asked about. The next pandemic will happen. probably in our lifetime. Until then, we need to learn how to say to our loved ones that we'll love them all the time, because no one knows what will happen next. Until then, we need to sacrifice our pleasure for the safety of the people that we never met. We need to protect nature and cherish communal spirit. We need to trust science more than to trust our gut feeling. Just like Frodo Baggins, we need to put ourselves second. This is how pandemic ends. Hey, if you like this episode of Fabric of Life, consider subscribing to this channel. Every week we are taking you on the new adventures. Next week we will make a Tinder experiment to investigate how we date in modern time and can our name make us ugly. Until then, stay tuned and curious. And don't forget, libraries still exist.